Hi, guys, and welcome to Criminality, the show where we know loving reality, thank goodness, is not a crime because, Rebekah, we would be felons. I am fairly certain.
Big trouble. Big,
Big
big
trouble.
trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebekah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so funny when you said the tagline because loving reality, the word loving, all I hear is love, and all I think of is love is blind. I can't hear the word love now without thinking of love is blind. I mean, that's how deep we're in.
We are pretty deep in it. You finished the reunion,
I
which
did.
was a mess. And I feel like after I read comments on Twitter, maybe I, in my personal thoughts, was too hard on Vanessa Lachey. Maybe she was really great and I just wasn't realizing it. People on Twitter loved her. And I thought, maybe this is me.
Oh,
Maybe we're
I
wrong.
thought she had one good moment, but overall, I felt like she and Nick did not kind of moderate or control the situation very well. I think we didn't hear enough from some people. We heard too much from others. Like, I didn't feel like they were in control of it at all.
No, if it felt like at any point Vanessa was ready to like just fight someone. She came
Yeah.
in there with some beefs. She heard Jessica Simpson was going to be in the room. She wasn't sure, so
Ooh, yeah.
she was coming in hot for sure.
Yeah, she was lit, but yeah, I did watch, and I guess it's time to move on since it's all over, but
And we have to wait for like 2 years.
it's so it's not right what they're doing to us. We would demand like an behind the scenes, like I want unplugged. I want the stuff we didn't see, the boring.
Thank you. Show us those other couples that also got engaged. They might not have been boring, but I with editing anyone can be exciting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. My cousin told me that she heard, so this is already trustworthy. My
Right, right,
cousin
right.
heard from
I
someone
trust her.
that I do too. Someone Natalie had another proposal. They just didn't include it because it was too soon and she didn't like him. And they won't name who, but it's verified. So I'm just like, who was it?
I
So
know.
there's
I
so
know.
much. But
Kyle got a nose ring for no apparent reason, and he seemed to be in love with Deepti, which okay, that one makes more sense, right?
yes.
Than Deepti and
Yeah,
Shake or Kyle and Shayna.
agreed. I felt like the whole lot of them could have used a little stylist help. I don't mean to be mean, but it just
Oh,
looked a little
there's a
oh,
lot
a
going
little rough
on.
around the edges. Yeah, there was
Lots
no
of capris
cohesion.
on the men's side for sure. But I did like that Danielle and Nick said they were in couples therapy. So that made me feel more excited about them and their chances of
Absolutely.
survival.
Getting through each day with one another.
Yeah.
No, they seemed great.
Yeah.
So long live Love is Blind.
Long live Love is Blind in 2024. Or you can watch the new
Yeah,
Vanessa and Nick show. Obviously, Nick Lachey, whatever the heck spinoff they're trying to force down our throats. I will not do it.
that's gonna be a no.
I'll do it on the second week. I'll promise I will be involved in that very, very quickly. I run out of shows too quickly. It's
I
gonna
know it
happen.
happens to the best of us.
I know. Somebody write this down and let us know whenever you hear us talking about it. Rub this in our faces that we said
It
no.
is just a
We're
matter
going
of
to.
time. Yeah, please.
I am a broken person. So, Rebekah, if we went back to the year 2021 on criminality, for me, I was kind of going through a douchebag phase. I covered Brett
Mm-hmm.
Michaels, Sean Stewart, and the biggest D bag of them all, Cody Brown, also known on the internet on Google as Christine Brown's ex husband. Thank you, whoever
Ooh,
created that.
I
Just feels
love
good,
that. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so then I took a break though. I covered a hoax, a 90210 star, and even a recent Celebrity Big Brother star. And I enjoyed all of those, but it reminded me I really needed to get back to my roots and give the people what they want. I needed to give them Lala's ex fiance, a different kind of douche,
Oh,
Mr. Randell Emmet. And that's who we're talking
oh,
about today.
the OG maybe of the douchebags. He's been douching longer than those boys that we've talked about previously have been alive. And
He's
that
been
sounded.
douching longer than Summer's Eve. He's been around for the
I'm so
amount of
ready.
time in my life. Oh, yeah, you've got your mug.
There it is. Yes, thank you for this.
Of course. I'm so happy. I thought Summer's Eve, by the way, this is maybe between just me and you. I don't know. I thought it was
Sure.
a shampoo until I was maybe 18 years old because the commercials,
Well, they keep it cryptic on purpose, but please tell me you never put it on your head.
did, I don't think so. Unless it was like 99 cents, then I would have bought it because I would have been like, what a steal. But no, I mean, and then whenever I would sing the song back to myself, Summer's Eve brings back freshness every time, I was like, where did I get off thinking that was for sure?
And then if you rewatch with the new understanding of those mother-daughter moments, it's like you can't not
Lots of beachness happening. There's a lot going on there that
innuendo.
I was not prepared for.
I love it.
Oh, that is my life. So Randell Emmet comes into our lives on Vanderpump Rules via his fiance, Lala. Rebekah, you're representing Lala pretty hardcore over there.
Well, when I think of Lala, I think of a few things, but one of them is fully just drinking from a baby bottle.
And like acting like other people were crazy for not thinking that was a normal thing. Didn't she call it her Baba?
I think so.
It got worse.
I mean, her name is Lala and she had a Baba. Like,
what was
it was a whole brand.
So Lala, though, had been on Vanderpump Rules for several seasons before we ever even saw Rand. In fact, Rand's name was never even mentioned to us for a few seasons. It was mentioned to us for a few seasons before we ever saw his face. And that's because Rand, like unlike other guys on the show, actually had a job. So Randell Emmet was born March 25th, 1971 in Miami, Florida. Wait, which part of that?
That's my birthday.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't even put that together when I was doing it.
No, I wouldn't expect you to, but this is really
twins.
cramping my birthday buddy trio because I love my birthday buddies that are celebrities. And this is like, he's not part of my club.
I'm sorry. He has been in the club longer than you have. Who else are your birthday celebrity buddies?
Well, you're not going to like one of them. Sarah Jessica Parker.
Ugh, right off the bat.
Aretha Franklin.
Okay, fine.
And the author, Flannery O'Connor. So every year I have a little party in my mind with them.
Yeah.
Two are in heaven, but still.
Randall can take the place of one of them. Come on.
Absolutely not.
SJP
Absolutely
and
not.
REP. I don't know. I love it. I'm excited for you. Yes, this is great. So like I said, Rand was born in Miami. And while he always had this taste for Hollywood, it would really be a long climb for him to get there. He didn't really have any connections to Hollywood besides one long-distance cousin that you may have heard of, super producer Jerry Bruckheimer. Heard of him?
Twice.
Yeah. Jerry Bruckheimer is his long-distance cousin. Like, I think it's like his second cousin.
If you're going to have one, that's a good one to have.
Right. And sure, that's a cool connection and that's a good connection to have. But having a distant cousin you've never actually met as your connection in Hollywood is about as good as saying that I'm friends with Lindsay Lohan because I once stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. It's really not the same thing. But at some point in her youth, Rand's mom and Jerry did hang out together when they were kids living in Detroit. So back to Rand. Rand actually participated in lots of plays and theaters growing up, and he, much like you, Rebekah, actually wanted to be an actor.
Oh boy.
Birthday buddies and actor hopes and dreams.
Kindred spirits.
You're meant to be. And so he must have actually had some talent because he actually earned a full scholarship for acting to Delphi University in Long Island. But it didn't take him long to realize that acting probably wasn't for him. He decided that he really wanted to work behind the scenes in production. And so instead of staying at Delphi, he decided to go to, by the way, I had to Google this again because this college name, which you're going to be familiar with, kind of blew my mind. It's called the City College of the City University of New York in Harlem for film school.
Yeah, we call it CUNY.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's exactly. Nobody ever would spell all that out, but it's our City University of New York. It's kind of like our University of California system. It's like our city public university system.
Okay.
Our state university system is called SUNY. SUNY and CUNY. Just FYI.
Okay. But this really still wasn't a very good fit for him. So he ends up transferring. So he's at the college, but he was in the acting department and he decided to transfer to the visual arts department and graduated in 1994. So he gets his first taste in movies though, before he ever graduates. He actually works as a PA on the movie The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox and LL Cool J.
Cool.
I'm not familiar
Never
with
heard of it, but
me either. Those are two names,
those guys.
Right?
Yeah.
So he said he was actually given a walkie-talkie at this job, and he took it so seriously that he actually slept with it in his bed at night, which...
That's endearing. I mean, I like someone who takes their first Like,
Me too.
job. Seriously.
There's a lot of really sweet moments in here with him, but don't forget the summer's eve of it all with this guy.
I will not.
So he said when he was in film school, that part of it, everyone wanted to be a director, but he wasn't interested in doing this. He really enjoyed the other side of it, which was taking the money and budgeting things. And that's going to come up again a little bit later.
Emphasis on taking the money.
Yes. So Rand says while he's in film school, these other students are just blowing through their budgets for their projects, but he's able to get things done for a really good price. And he was really good at negotiating these projects from the very beginning. And so during his time in college, he ends up working with seniors who have these big senior projects. And every weekend he was working with them to help get their budgets to get their projects done. And he was charging them, or he was basically saying for $5,000, I can take care of all of this for you. So he was getting the actors, he was getting lighting, he was getting everything that they needed. And so he eventually creates 14 films in film school this way. Again, he's just he actually starts off working very, very hard. I mean, he's putting in the time, I definitely think. So for his senior thesis, he decided to take on really a monumental task. He wanted to create a feature film, which was really ambitious, obviously. So he ends up making the film Eyes Beyond Seeing in 1995 for $76,000. And to make a feature film that's worth a crap for such little money, he worked so hard to get the budgeting, the best price for this film. He has the crew stay at the college in the dorms, and they shoot for 4 weeks long. He calls the local news to come, see it. And he actually would eventually sell this movie for domestic release to UPN. And so he literally sold his first feature film.
Feature film? Wow.
Yeah. I know, as I was doing this, I'm like, oh man, I wish Rebekah would have done this one because you know this world so much better than I do.
Do I?
Well, I know the sarcasm of it, but that's what I'm bringing you here today.
I know Cooney and Suni. I don't know if I know it any better.
All right, you're still ahead of me. Didn't know what it was. So here's where it starts to get more fun. So after graduation, he's ready to move to LA and really start his life in film production. And that's when his mom finally uses her phone a friend and calls old cousin Jerry to try and get a little bit of help. And so Rand says he has this call with Jerry, his sort of cousin Jerry, and Jerry asked him, hey, what do you want to do in the business? And Rand said he wanted to be a producer. And Jerry said to him, quote, people will tell you what you do best. Instead of you deciding what you do best, people will tell you. You'll find your thing. Which I actually think is, I don't know if that's advice, but he's just basically saying keep with what you want to do and not what other people tell you.
Right.
So I thought, hey, if you're going to have a cousin and have one phone call with them, that's the one to do something, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, Rand moves to LA and he begins working as a development intern for his cousin Jerry. So at this point, the cousin thing really did pay off. So he says while he's working there, he's able to go into the editing room of Bad Boys back in 1995. Yeah. And so he realizes he basically wants to become the next Michael Bay, not realizing it's going to take a lot to get to become Michael Bay, the good or the bad of that. But something else happened whenever he moved out to LA. He met a new friend. Do you have any idea who this friend was, Rebekah? His new friend, they became best friends.
Already? Are we at Lauren already? Lauren Lala?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know if she was a twinkle in her parents' eye at that point.
Right. I'm like, this seems way premature. No, I have no idea who he linked up with.
I'm so excited. He met someone, you may have heard of him, Mark Wahlberg of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch fame. That guy. Those two became best friends.
I didn't see that one coming.
You'll see it a little bit more. I didn't see it either, but it's going to make a little bit more sense. So the two become films.
Make it make sense.
Friends. Yeah. Okay, let's not go that far. I'm not performing any miracles here. But they become friends over their love of film, which makes sense, right? Like that's what they're both doing. So to me, I was like, that's actually not that exciting that they bonded over that. Eventually, though, he's kind of tired of working with Jerry. I shouldn't say tired, but he wants to move on to something else. And he eventually gets a letter of recommendation from Aaron Spelling. Do not ask me how those two ended up knowing each other. I looked for the link there. I don't know exactly what it is. But like, that's a big deal, right? If Aaron Spelling writes you a letter of recommendation.
The weight of that. Yeah. Also love the worlds colliding here. Very good.
It was a little exciting. And this is something he talks about in this book where they kind of interviewed a ton of producers. I will link that in the show notes, but there's like a ton of information in there, which was way more than I thought I would ever have on the biography of Randell Emmet. I know. So Aaron gives him this letter of recommendation and says, hey, you know what you need to do? You should work at an agency. You are going to learn the ins and outs of things that you're just not going to know if you go out there on your own right away. And so Rand's kind of like, I don't want to work in an office, but if Aaron Spelling tells you to do something, you do it. So he decides that's what he's going to do. He's going to work with an agency. So he uses this letter of recommendation to land a job as an assistant for talent agent Nick Stein.
Okay.
After this, though, he eventually becomes an assistant for Mark. Why I wear my pants whenever I can wear my Calvins, Wahlberg.
Well, I mean, I have an answer. I have a suggestion. I've seen the ads.
I know. I was Googling it and I'm like, what else do I remember? And I looked at the ads and I'm like, I remember the ads. And Rand would end up being his assistant for 2 years, all the way up through Mark's breakthrough in Boogie Nights.
Wow. Wait, but the friendship predated him being the assistant, or that's how they met? Okay, so they're friends and then he assisted. Interesting.
Yes. And if you're thinking, Melissa, this sounds familiar. Didn't Mark have an entire HBO series chronicling him and his friends hitting it big in Hollywood? You'd be correct. And now you're thinking of Entourage. That was that show with that guy from the movie with Bangs McGee, right? And if you're like, was one of the characters based off Rand? I'd say, does a turtle have its shell? And by that, I mean, Rand was, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So were you an Entourage fan? Or do you have like I have an overall, I know
I've watched seasons of it, not the whole thing religiously. A very good friend of mine from high school was in it. So I have like a vested, curiosity about it. Now that you're showing me this, I see it. And now that I'm thinking of Turtle, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
But it had never occurred to me and I'd never read that or heard that.
Where would we ever put that together? But it is a wild fact to me, right? It blew my mind.
It's like, I hate to say it, but it's like a lot of credibility almost. Like, do you think, was it formally in the likeness of him and his crew? Or like, is there like attachment to the project or not really?
Yes and no. So he says that the character of Turtle was based on basically 3 different assistants. So it's not just Rand, but people basically are like, that's the same person.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's wild.
So Rand was saying like, even, other people in the story, the relationships weren't the same. Of course, it's going to be dramatized. It was a series on HBO.
Yeah.
But just the idea of him being Turtle, who I didn't know a lot about, but I knew who Turtle was in Entourage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This just makes me so happy.
Yeah. I almost want to like revisit it with this new lens of thinking of Marky Mark in the mix as well. Wait, is he in the mix?
Marky Mark is the guy.
Yes.
Bangs McGee's brother.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
What's his name? Adrian Grenier? Because I feel bad calling him Bangs McGee's brother all the time.
Grenier. Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it.
And in the show, don't they come from Queens? And Marky Mark's story is like Boston. Like, this is all making a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. But Marky Mark had some stuff happen in Boston. So I think he tried to like change a few more things in the story to lead people off of that.
Artistic. Creative changes. Yes.
Much like these two. So I loved this connection. So after working for Mark, he works for him for 2 years. Mark's star starts rising and he finds himself jobless. He stopped working with Mark and he's looking for really his next big thing. He's been tricked by numerous investors at this time saying that they were going to help fund his projects and never getting anything that he was promised. And so eventually he meets this guy named George Furla, and this guy George agrees to fund his first feature in LA. And George eventually goes on to becoming his producing partner, and they still work together to this day. They founded Emmet Furla, which eventually became Emmet Furla Oasis after an investor joined the group. So Oasis was like, add us to the end. We just need to be here. Okay. Interesting. So from here on out, Rand is really making bank. And should I say making bank at my age? Absolutely not. But here we are. Speaking of things you should not do at my age, or Randall's there, Rand eventually meets and marries a beautiful actress named Amber with a Y, Childers.
Yes.
The couple were married in 2009 when Amber was just 20. And how old would that have made him? I think he was like 40, 30.
What year did they marry? Because he's 71.
Oh, gosh.
So,
2009.
okay.
You can do that math. 39?
30, 40. Yeah, he was like
40. Okay,
40.
so it's not as big of an age gap as I'm thinking now.
Well, 20 and 40 is, I mean, life stage wise, that's
true.
Significantly different.
Yeah. So the two were married in 2009 and they eventually divorced in 2017. They have 2 kids together and seem to be pretty happy while they were together. And you may know Amber from her role on Ray Donovan. And she was also in You, where she played Candace Stone. Maybe just the Lifetime version, because You started on Lifetime and then it got sold to Netflix the second. Okay, this is what some website told me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Season 1, big time. Remember that. Didn't realize it was her until you said it, but yes.
Okay. So as the resident YA expert, this is a big deal. His bride, right? So while Amber and Rand separated in 2016, Amber officially filed for divorce after seeing Rand making out with VPR's own Lauren Elise Birmingham. I'm sorry, Lala Kent. Lauren Elise Birmingham. I mean, come on. I feel like I was being nice to them in this picture. She looks so lovingly at him, doesn't she? It's kind of bizarre. And rather than telling you about the love story of how Rand and Lala met, I'll let her tell you. While there are no curse words in this, conversation is a little PG-13. So if you have little ears and you don't want to explain things today, maybe fast forward about 45 seconds.
To ask me if I was an actress. I told him to go to my Instagram account. Today, I get a phone call that says, you have an audition.
That's crazy.
I had auditioned for it, and we went out, me and him and like 2 of my friends, and I let him hit it the first night, and we were inseparable. He would just send me like really expensive gifts. The first night we banged, I got a car the next day. He was like, do you want a Range Rover? I was like, yeah. There's been a lot of times where I'm like, come to a hotel.
Well, Stassi was never more relatable than in that moment.
I know.
She was all of us.
I know. It's just a lot of information to hear at one time that I don't know that you asked for in that moment, but it all came out, right? And so Lala's an adult. She can do whatever she wants, but the issue here is the timeline. So Friends, right, on Vanderpump Rules, they were constantly saying, well, Lala, you're the other woman and he's married. And she wasn't mentioning this guy, which also made it very like Big Papa from Real Housewives of Atlanta, where like Kim always had this guy, but you never saw him because he was married. So that's kind of the inference you get in this, right? And while you're thinking, why would the man behind such hits as Righteous Kill, Today You Die, Day of the Dead, Streets of Blood, real family-friendly movies want to ever become, be a regular on Vanderpump Rules? Well, we aren't totally sure, but Lala without a love interest isn't really that interesting. She's on reality TV. We need the drama. But Rebekah, also, it could be the money. Rand is a huge poker player. Did you know that about him?
I think I've heard little whispers of this.
Yeah. It's not where he lost his money, but I just found it interesting to see Lala on his arm going to poker tournaments. But Rand's formula for making these movies that he was making is to get a big name associated with the project, right? So he'll have like Bruce Willis stars in Today 40 people die on whatever. Like it doesn't make any sense. The movies are just like whatever, but then you see Bruce Willis and you think, well,
it's legit.
It's good, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's something. And of course, they aren't all great, but I will give credit where credit is due and say Rand's responsible for movies like Heist, Lone Survivor, which to me was like the biggest one, and the movie responsible for pairing Denise Richards and Charlie Sheen, which was Good Advice. Did you ever see Good Advice?
No.
I actually really liked that movie. I don't know if I was just younger and therefore...
And maybe didn't know as much as you know now about Charlie Sheen.
I watched it more when they were a new couple, I think, when I watched it.
Okay.
I didn't watch it.
I can't watch anything with him anymore. It's like I know too much. Yeah.
Oh, totally. So either way, though, Rand jumped into our TVs in season 8 of Vanderpump Rules. He was listed as a guest the first season he was on, and by 9, he was a series regular. And while we all love reality TV, when you see someone who's had this huge career in Hollywood, he's worked with Mark Wahlberg 1,000 times and all kinds of people, it's kind of weird to see him on a show with somebody singing about being good as gold. Sheena Shea, if you will. It's a little wild.
Feels like a step down.
Yeah. How did you feel about Rand being on Vanderpump Rules?
You know, it's funny. It feels like so long ago that he was introduced. So my like lasting impression, of course, is what's most recently going on, which I know we're going to get to. But right before that, unfortunately, he had this small redemptive arc. And he was starting to become winsome. And maybe it's just because he was there for so long that I just finally accepted him as part of it. But I think he went from schwarmy, gross old guy to kind of reliable Rand and sort of the voice of reason in Lala's world and in all of their worlds. He and Lisa played the mother father figures.
Yeah.
I didn't hate him, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I know. I was the same way. I fully expect to be oh, this guy. And then I was oh, I kind of like him. It was very confusing, right?
Very
confusing. This is the second time I've heard you call him winsome, and it's getting a little upsetting. Remember, I have a text message where you called him winsome, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow, Melissa, way to show the receipts to everybody. Okay,
I have not forgotten that because I think I wrote it back to you in all capital letters to make sure we were talking about the same person.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to trust me on this.
I guess it's all relative, right? Let's consider the spectrum on where he is.
Sure, sure.
No, as with all of these people, I'm prepared to take things back at any moment. And he is obviously one of those people.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, and. All right. We'll keep going.
Thank you.
So now, though, Rand and Lala's relationship is out there in the public eye. We're finally seeing them together, how they interact, how he seems to be pretty a good presence for her, a good person in her life, we think. And Rand is still out there making deals. And suddenly, though, it's April 2019. And that's when a text thread was posted to the internet. And it was a text thread that would change my entire life forever. And while that may seem dramatic, my life is not very exciting. So let me have this. And I'll explain what it is after we take a quick break to hear a word from this week's sponsors. So this post that I'm referring to is an Instagram post from 50 Cent regarding his friend, Randell Emmet. Rebekah, where were you when 50 posted this?
I don't remember where I was, but it might have been a Monday.
Yeah. But do you remember this happening as it was happening?
Oh my gosh, the flood of it happening and then everything around it happening. And I'm wait, there's a public beef happening between 50 and Rand?
So good.
What could we concoct better than that?
Truly, there was nothing better. It was one of the best weekends of my life. And I say that without any sarcasm whatsoever. I was just living for it. So if you're thinking what do Randell and 50 really have? What is this whole thing, right? So they actually worked together on a TV show called Power that aired on Starz for 7 seasons. 50 Cent was one of the creators and producers on Power. And apparently, and I'm not sure how this happened, and I can't find anything that says exactly how this happened. At one point, Rand borrows $1 million from 50 Cent. So that's this whole beef, right?
Sure.
And 50 tries to help him pay this back by actually having him get a producer spot on Power. So that's not how they met. They had a past before. They worked together before. And then he was like, hey, you can't pay me. I'm going to get you this job on the show I'm working on. And you can pay me from that, right?
That's fair. That's generous.
Very.
Someone willing to work with you.
And so this wasn't 2 weeks he was owing this money. He was owing this money over several years. And he was supposed to pay 50 Cent back, which at this point you're like, okay, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that when 50 Cent sees Lala on Bravo, he's more than a little upset hearing all the things Rand is gifting her. Like, what was it? The Range Rover.
Yeah.
They're taking PJs everywhere.
Gucci
Reservations.
slides.
Yeah, reservations at Nobu on Sunday, like Shake. They're just busy, right? But back to the gram, as Lala ends up calling it that weekend, which was one of the more upsetting things in this fight. Instagram. You can call it the entire word, I promise. So 50 Cent posts on Instagram that weekend how Rand hasn't paid him back this $1 million that he owes. And as we know from all these like court cases with celebrities, they don't air all of the behind the scenes stuff. So to hear that somebody owes $1 million is a huge deal.
Yeah.
This is me trying to help you guys relive it if you don't
Please
remember or
take
you
us
weren't a
back.
part of it. Yeah,
Take us
it was a simpler time, let's be honest. And because 50 is nothing if he doesn't love drama, he begins posting screenshots of their personal text. Here, let me read one to you. This is from Randall. I'm sorry again. I really am. I said I'm sorry, FOFTY. I'm heading to the emergency room. I'm not doing well. Please don't text me anymore. I'm sorry for everything. This is too much for me. I'm so hurt and not feeling well. Please, 50, no more. I said I'm sorry, FOFTY. That's my favorite line ever.
Well, you know the typo came because he is in his and look, from one fat thumbed person to another. If mine have difficulty, I can only imagine his, like trying to get those words out fast, right? And then we all like bear witness to the world's most embarrassing typo. It's like too good.
So
Like, too, what did we do to deserve it?
I know. And I love that it ends with please 50, no more. And 50 is just 50 is not having it. So at this point, Twitter is a buzz. Everyone is waiting for what happens next. Lala tries to get involved, which is really weird. But 50 does not stop. And eventually we get that, I'm sorry, FOFTY text, which chef's kiss. My line here says, where were you when FOFTY was created? We've talked about that, but like just ask yourself that there today, everyone. We'll have to post that on the gram.
Yes,
where were you
when
FOFTY was created? So it's simply the best autocorrect fail of the millennium. It's why I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs did not give us a better system to type things often to have these kind of fails, right? Yeah. So after that, Rand writes, that he's going to the emergency room. He's not doing well, but 50 Cent, he ain't buying it. Even after Rand sends this photo of himself, he sent this photo to tell 50 Cent that he was having heart issues, which I got to be honest with you. If you know 50 Cent is possibly posting your text messages, that is not one thing you want to show to the world.
But it is.
Is he winsome?
I think no.
Is this winsome, Rebekah?
No, that is not the word that comes to mind. But I think he's desperate, and I think he is trying to garner some sympathy and some okay, guys, take it easy on
Rand. This is serious.
Yeah, he's got ET patches all over him.
He does. But the thing is, he looks more like he's posing for something. Like he's like, oh, how did these get here?
He doesn't look
right.
It's true.
He doesn't look upset. You'd think if you're going to go through all this effort, you'd be like, I should cry or something.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
No, he's
pale. He's got a nice rosy complexion.
Yeah, he looks like he's kind of smiling. It's really kind of bizarre. So at this point, we find out that Rand has sent $250,000 to 50, but that is not enough. And 50 replies with, quote, F you, Randall. I want all my money Monday. F that. If he ain't got it, he can put his Rolls Royce on the truck to New York. That it's probably in regards to something Lala has said. And then he followed it up with, quote, you're not going to die before Monday. Go ahead, knock yourself out. LOL.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's also trying to get, not that Rand tried, but being in a text fight out loud, you're never going to win against 50. He's it's too brilliant. It's too good.
50 Cent is the same man who bought out all the front row tickets to a Ja Rule concert. So whenever he came out, no one was sitting in the first two rows.
he's a genius.
I love it. He's kind of
poet
petty.
And a genius. I love it.
So at this point, 50 gives a deadline of money by Monday, which I'm wearing my money by Monday
That's my
Apparel.
favorite part of this.
This
Yeah.
is-
For me,
I
it's
know.
the Money by Monday.
Yeah. We're getting really, we're well branded for this episode.
Yes, we are. One more time.
I love the I'm sorry, FOFTY. I'm sorry. That's just maybe my favorite thing.
So hard to
It
get
comes
it in
in
there.
sometimes and then it
There it
goes
is.
away. I said, I'm sorry, FOFTY. Okay. So he has his deadline, Money by Monday. I've never been more nervous for a deadline that has absolutely nothing to do with me or my
Right.
family or my well-being. I was nervous.
Yeah.
And so we all wondered, would 50 get his money by Monday? And whether or not he would, 50 actually did really well that weekend. He sold 10,000 shirts on Sunday alone of I'm sorry, FOFTY. Or he sold 10,000. That is like he already made so much money that weekend. I love it. And then Money by Monday came and the Instagram post was made. 50 shares his text exchange with Rand that ends with, just got the wire. I got my money, so I have no problem with Randell Emmet. In fact, I'm wishing him and his family a very blessed day. Positive vibes now, guys.
Wow. I mean, and just like that, Money by Monday.
That's and just like that should have been for this situation. And just like that,
Yes.
forget Sex in the City. This is where it is.
Yes. This is where it's appropriate.
And just like that, Money by Monday.
And also,
it.
and just like that, 50 shuts it down. Like, okay, everybody, business as usual. There's no beef. There's no bad will. Like,
Happy for them.
blessed day.
Yes,
Peace to all.
exactly. He got
I
his
love
money by
it.
Monday.
I
But
love
it is great. He's like, I have no problems with him. He paid me my money. Let's move on.
Right.
With
That's
this.
what this was about. But like,
Yeah.
did he have that liquid cash available? Is he like hard up now? Like, I actually don't like what happened. How did he get the money? Did he always have it?
Let's
Do we know?
But Rand wasn't done with his money troubles. In fact, this was just the first peek that we had that something could be wrong,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
If you owed 50 Cent $1 million for several years, as you were saying, and he's having you get a job to get it back, who else do you owe money to?
Mm-hmm.
So this goes back in time just a little bit to 2013 when
Okay.
Emmet and Furla allegedly misrepresented the amount of debt that they owed to investors so that they would be able to reduce the residual deposits that are required by major guilds. So here's my understanding. Basically, they estimated that this movie, Broken City, would make around $28 million in international pre-sales. And this film stars Russell Crowe, Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Oh, wow.
and Marky Mark again.
Okay.
But it's 2013. Like, those are big names, but it's not the same as 2000, right? But when only $11 million is actually made, the film's investor, Nemesis Finance, they go into panic mode. And so I can't pretend to fully understand this, but the reason the finance company ever took this on is they were guaranteed, of course, that they could recoup this money
You're right.
easily. And so Randall and George even said, you know, we can write personal notes to
Wow.
promise this, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, they misrepresented what they actually owed to other people, which meant they were able to secure this loan. So they didn't have the money to actually do that. They still owed other people other money. So, of course, the loan would have never been approved had they been honest.
Sure.
So this is a huge deal. And the attorneys working on this suit recognized that maybe this wasn't the first time they had done that. And so in 2016, the settlement is reached. Of course, Hollywood, we don't know what the terms of it was, but it felt very Tinder swindler to me as I was reading about this, in the sense that Randall allegedly may have been robbing Peter to pay Paul with some of these film deals.
It's also very Madoff.
Yeah, and it feels very like so much of this comes up in 2020, and we learned this with Erica Jane and
Yeah.
Tom Girardi, that like when the world ends, you don't have these things going and you can't keep paying back this person with this person's money. And so that's that sounds to me like what was happening here.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah. So Rand's problems, though, don't really end there. As I mentioned, he had divorced Amber. They have these 2 kids. And of course, there's going to be a custody agreement. There's going to be payments in this. So in April of 2020, he and Lala had planned to get married, but COVID. But in October of 2021, Rand actually brings Amber to court to change the terms of their child support. So according to Rand, he's paying $5,250 in monthly support for his 2 kids.
That's it.
But he also has to have this account, this bank account open with $50,000 in it. And so every month it has to be up at a total of $50,000.
Oh.
So, Amber could spend all $50,000 on things associated with the kids that are non-tuition expenses, but he has to make sure it has $50,000 at the end of the month. So
Okay.
it's a lot more.
That's a ton more. I was thinking 5,200 sounded way too low for 2 kids in Beverly Hills or
for
wherever
him,
they live.
yeah.
And for what they're worth and what he makes and the lifestyles. But wait, that sounds like impossible to keep up with. Like,
I know. I'm wondering how he got in this situation, because
yeah,
I guess maybe at some point he thought this money will never end up, go away, and I'm doing so well, but that's a lot.
Whew.
And so Rand is saying here, I owe $500,000 to the IRS. I have several loans to production companies. And he also said that Amber, quote, spends more akin to a contestant of The Price is Right than a devoted mother, end quote.
Oh, boy.
Little dig there.
Mm-hmm.
So Rand also said, quote, I only produced one movie in 2020 as opposed to several in normal years.
Fair. I mean,
so, but yeah, his income's changed, right?
Sure.
And his liquidity, he's got issues with that. And he's saying basically, I don't know when that's going to change with COVID. Things can be shut down at any point, and they were being shut down all the time. And so he's saying, I don't know, even the projects I have lined up, I don't know if those are going to fall through. And so Amber's attorney responds and says, hey, that's all good and all, but like, can you show us proof that you actually have these debts? Because Rand is saying he's paying $15,000 a month to the IRS, as well as $10,000 a month to American Express. So, and then having to keep that at $50,000, I mean, that's a lot. I just don't even understand how the judge made that.
Picked that number and thought that was like sustainable and viable. Yeah, I don't know either. It must have been based on something. And she must have had a great lawyer, and he must have done something really terrible, i.e. like we know what he did. And so I think he probably wasn't fighting so hard to
probably. But whew. So the couple, of course, end up settling out of court, which is what Rand needs to hope happens with Lala, because the two didn't get married in 2020 because of COVID, but ultimately they never got married. And rumors flew around that Rand had cheated on Lala basically immediately after having their daughter, Ocean.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what kind of settlement she gets there, but I'm pretty sure Ocean does not have a $50,000 a month checking account available to her.
No. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. So, and Rand really isn't out of hot water yet. Back in October 2021, 8,200 Cardinal Associates, which was the company Randell and George rented office space from, they actually filed a lawsuit against Randell and George for breach of the lease. So Randell and George began leasing this, you heard this, third floor in this building for $17,000 a month. According to the company, in 2021, they stopped making payments, moved out, despite having this lease agreement to June 2021. So the landlord ends up suing Rand and the company for $281,000 in unpaid rent, and also asked for $55,000 for the remaining months, and then $336,000 in damages. That's like more than what he actually owed. I'm always like, are you just like spaghetti, like just throwing it at a wall? Let's see what happens.
I think so. I think it sounds like it.
It's quite a bit, right? So in January of 22, which was just 2 months ago, Rand goes back in court, and this time he's countersuing his landlords. He claims that these landlords didn't follow COVID safety protocols. And so when the building shut down in March of 2020, he couldn't access the office for months. He also said from August 2020 to February 2021, the elevators weren't even working, so they really had a hard time moving their stuff out. But he also accused them of misplacing checks, including 2 checks from the Ohio State Treasurer for $2.2 million each, and a check from the Georgia State Treasurer for $180,000. And he said this cost him $200,000 in default interest. What is happening there? Why is Ohio State Treasurer sending Rand checks for $2.2 million? What am I missing?
Georgia, what? Yeah, they must be like if you shot
Shoot a
somewhere.
movie there?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
and strange.
Convenient. That maybe those checks got lost.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem great at like proving his having the paper trail of like receipts. So.
But FOFTY does. So if he got involved, maybe we could help him.
We know that to be true.
So if you're thinking, well, if nothing else, at least this guy can dry his tears with the bread from his Randell Emmet production sandwich from the Something About Her sandwich shop. Actually, according to the owner of Sandy's and Schwartz, the second worst named restaurant that I've named in the last minute, Randall's no longer an investor, and Katie and Ariana are still looking for other investors in their restaurant.
Well, they need to tighten their pitch.
It looks like Rand really wasn't the number one guy in the group. That's all I have.
No, he wasn't. When that all fizzled, he's like, yeah, I'm going to maybe not invest in your stupid sandwich shop.
Yeah. Something about her.
Oh, wow. He has a lot of financial things to sort out. And I would think like the custody the custody and the child support stuff with Lala and Ocean will be pretty top of the priority list, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Because she is turning into Tori Spelling 2.0, which if you Google her name, every day is a new story, right? Mm-hmm. She's selling them like crazy.
But that shouldn't surprise us because look at the clip we watched, right? She told Stassi everything from day one, and now she's telling us everything that she knew all along. I mean, it's gotten bizarre to the things that she's sharing. It's too soon, in my opinion. It's just a weird strategy. And I understand he is terrible and did a terrible, terrible thing to her at like a vulnerable time. But like she's now saying his ex-wife was the best thing that had ever happened to him.
I know.
Which is just weird considering her role in their relationship. Like
I know.
It's confusing.
Confusing is a great word for it. I also saw an article this week where she was dancing to a 50 Cent song at the Super Bowl, which is okay.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. It reminds me like, okay, if this happened to Stevie Nicks, we would hear about it in her biography 30 years later. But this is like, why do I need to know this a week after you broke up and all these terrible things? And it's just a lot.
It is. And, you know, she didn't make any qualms about how they met.
Right. It almost seemed like a movie the way it started off, right? Like I feel like we've seen movies with that being the entire plot. So it's I don't know, it's not super surprising how it's gone.
It's also interesting because she made very public what I think a lot of people work very hard to keep confidential and quiet about how they get parts in movies.
Oh yeah.
And like about how Hollywood really works. And that fact that she just kind of owned it and said it is both like, well, I'll just stick with confusing.
It's a lot, but I mean, I feel bad for the kids obviously involved in this because, and he was saying to like bankruptcy court to child support and stuff like, hey, if I don't have money, no one else in this family's working. I don't know if Amber has a job, but he's saying that she doesn't. I'm the only one providing. So if you want to say that I'm defaulting on this, then I can't give anything. I'm going to go bankrupt paying this $50,000 fee every month if I can't pay the IRS and I can't pay these.
Yeah, sure.
It's just like, I just feel like there's a lot of money being played around here and like a lot of bills.
Yeah, it makes me really stressed thinking about his finances.
I know. So Rebekah, thanks for going on that journey.
Oh my gosh, that was really, really fun. And just real quick, I'm like not quite ready to leave yet.
No, go ahead.
Like, what did you think of that scene? It was fairly recent, the sandwich shop pitch to Emmett.
I thought if you're going to ask somebody for more than $100,000, you really need to know what you're doing and talking about and have the idea that they're like, we don't want to have punny names for it. And this is a serious feminist shop and stuff. It's a little confusing but it's a little confusing if you're just like, I don't know. The whole thing, that was confusing.
Yes, they didn't have a vision to back up this more like cryptic name, which I think would have been easy to do if they were like, and here's a mood board to kind of show you what we mean. Just overall, I think you're right. Like asking for that much money and just sitting there and being so casual about it. They really like, I mean, who knows? Maybe the whole scene was just a big manipulated setup for the show.
Right.
And they knew they were going to get it and they knew he was going to say yes. But I also just was like, how are we supposed to think this guy's like a real big time producer when he was like, oh, I love it. Very cool. Like, oh, interesting. Great name. So I'm actually glad to hear his pedigree, if you will. I mean, he legitimately has a career in Hollywood.
Totally.
I never was quite sure of that all through the show. If he just like did a couple things that, if he was like a hanger-oner kind of guy who like does just enough to be on the periphery.
A turtle,
he has,
if you
like,
will.
A turtle, if you will. But there's enough there that like, you know, he's like a person in Hollywood.
Oh, for sure.
He's not doing the worst of everybody. He's not doing the best, but like he's in the mix.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
So that's interesting. I am interested to see what all happens between them, between Lala and Rand. I know she's like working really hard to not launch, but like keep her brands going and make some money.
Lala.
Yeah.
Oh.
She needs more bottles for another year or so for the baby, not her.
Oh, okay. Good one. So, Rebekah, I want to ask you, what is it that you've been watching this week? I don't think we've touched in about shows off mic.
No, we haven't. And I've watched a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to like think about what I would choose to share with the group.
I get it.
As you know, that quandary, but I'm going to go with this. I don't know if you've seen anything for it yet. We definitely haven't talked about it, but Netflix.
Okay.
Mother-daughter mystery. So it's a scripted like drama.
Is it the new Toni Collette thing that's out?
Oh, you're so good.
Oh, I honestly read the description 15 minutes ago. I want to watch it. Like I knew I had seen something with Toni Collette and wanted to go back to it, but I just didn't. It just didn't pop up on my like force you to watch preview yet. I haven't seen it. Yeah, tell me about it.
It's called Pieces of Her,
which is akin to Something About Her, Sandwich Shop.
Oh,
they could have done something with it.
So Netflix says a woman pieces together her mother's dark past after a violent attack in their small town brings hidden threats and deadly secrets to light. So it starts, very much in the action. I won't say what the what she uncovers, but basically this major tragedy happens early on in the first episode, and it unravels kind of this life the mother, Toni Collette, had tried to build. And so her 30-year-old daughter starts poking around.
Ooh,
mystery ensues.
I sort of thought Toni Collette was going to be the daughter and it was an older mom, but I forget Toni Collette is older enough to be a mom and have an older daughter. This is a lot. It's a lot to take in.
This is a lot. She's got a 30-year-old daughter in the show. And that actress you might know. It's you would know her. Bella Heathcote.
I don't think so.
She looks familiar. What has she been in? I feel like it's Vampire or something.
I feel like it's Vampire or something.
Exactly. It's really good. I'm enjoying it. It's different from everything else I'm watching. I was in like a very like Love is Blind Summer House kind of place. I'm watching Summer House in reverse. I'm going
I love it so
backwards
much.
in time, but literally sequentially, but backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have more commentary on that than I do Pieces of Her, but it's also because I didn't finish Pieces of Her and I don't want to give spoilers, but
sure.
Well acted. If you want a drama and like a series to binge,
right,
I do recommend.
Oh, nice.
What are you watching?
Well, what do you think of Summer House? I'm going to look up my thingy.
Well, it's the most bizarre thing because I started watching the most recent season first. And I'm new to Summer House, which is weird. And I had no idea it had been on as long as it had.
Yeah.
So I'm watching like the Carl and Lindsay drama unfold, but backwards, because I know they're together like this minute, but then I'm seeing these episodes from like season 6 where they first start thinking about it, but then I know there's even more before that. So it's really kind of a head trip to watch it backwards. And the Hannah and Luke story makes so much more sense seeing the summer that they met, like based on the one after reaction. When she looked so crazy and she really kind of was unhinged. But I saw him more in like, I feel like I got the bigger, fuller picture.
Right.
It's not like he was blowing her off.
Right. It's not like she was pursuing him and he wasn't interested.
No, it wasn't all in her head.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of made it seem like it was, but maybe that was the more recent exchange between them. But anyway, I don't know why that show is so dang watchable.
It really is. I started it probably in season 3, like as it was going on. So I watched either 3 or 4, and then I did the same thing you did and started going back a season and watching it.
But did you go to 1 and then 2 and 3, or did you go back?
No,
I went backwards, literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I heard that the first season wasn't great. So I was like, all right, I'll just keep going. Yeah. And it was a little confusing at times. But do you know who else Carl dated on the cast? Do you have that history?
I think, I've just heard, but I haven't seen it, is Danielle.
Yeah, they never show it, but it's like just a thing that they dated
it's just a
years
thing
ago.
they know. Yeah, I
Mhm.
would never have guessed that. So now I'm like, my
No.
gosh, she's made out with most of them.
Literally all of
Dated a
them.
lot of them. I just met Jules.
You can forget her. I mean, not in a mean way, but
Yeah.
like she's just not there very long.
She seemed a little too young. I mean, I don't know if she was the same age as Amanda and Paige, but she just seemed younger.
Yeah, I felt bad for her. I think she got like not a great edit on there at all, and they just I don't know, they just
didn't know what to do
really
with her.
connect. Yeah. It's kind of like the guy that eats ground beef all the time, or ground turkey. They don't know what to do with him,
Alex,
and he's just there. Yeah. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm always loving Summer House, so that's a good one. And I want to check out the Toni Collette one.
It's good.
I gotta get into like a new drama. That would be good.
It's a good one.
All right, Rebekah. Here are my clues.
Okay.
Mine's not on the air anymore, so let me just give that as a freebie.
Okay.
It's not a current show. Okay. FX.
Okay.
Zach Galifianakis and Louis Anderson. Baskets. Have you heard of Baskets?
Never.
I think. Really? Oh my goodness. Hold on. Here we go.
How do
Baskets.
you know these shows that I've like never heard of?
I don't know exactly. Well, actually, my friend Haley, she researched our show. We have a lot of shows we like in common and like different podcasts. And so she knows all these like hidden gem kind of things. So let me read the description. So Chip Baskets, so that's Zach Galifianakis over there, has always dreamed of being a classically trained clown. After flunking out of French clown college, he moves home to Bakersfield, California, where he moves in with his mother, Christine, and bickers with his twin brother, Dale. Now, that sounds boring, but it's so good. So it's this family dynamic kind of thing. But Louis Anderson plays the mother, Christine, and he is a genius as Christine. You believe he is Christine Baskets the entire time.
Wow.
He won an Emmy for his role. I mean, he embodies her, just his mannerisms. He said he played it like his own mother.
Oh my gosh.
You never think that's Louis Anderson. You think that's Christine Baskets the entire time.
This is wild. And it doesn't sound boring to me. It sounds weirdly specific. And I like really quirky, specific setups. Yeah. So I'm intrigued.
It is so funny, Rebekah. Like there's a lot of heart to it. There's a drama aspect, but it's quirky, funny. He Chip, the first episode, he gets in a minor wreck, which isn't like a spoiler, and becomes friends with his insurance salesman through Costco, the lady that is the like adjuster. And he's she's just there the rest of the time. There's no she's just there, and she's so deadpan and just Martha, I can't remember what her last name is, but she's a genius in the show. She was actually friends with Zach, and he was like, "You have to be in the show with me. I wrote this part for you." And she was never an actress.
What a dream!
She did comedy.
Oh my gosh,
and
that's just so cool.
Hilarious. She's somebody that never wants to upset people. She gets bitten by a snake once, and then gets bit a second time and apologizes for yelling about getting bit by a snake. Just delightful. But it's so different than anything I've ever watched. But it's a comfort show for me that I enjoy the characters so much. It's really great.
I will definitely give that one a try. Where do you watch it now?
You can watch it on Hulu.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So all the seasons are on there. I think I'm in the 3rd season at this point, but there's, oh man, it's just so good. And nobody really knows about it. So, all right. So yes, definitely check that one out. If you've seen it, please tell me, because I can't get enough of the show. Yeah.
So yeah, didn't see that one coming.
No, I've been waiting to say this one. I kept watching more exciting things, and I wanted to share it as they were happening. Now I'm nothing's going on TV. Baskets it is.
Good to know.
Rebekah, would you like to give us 3 clues for the episode in 2 weeks?
Yeah. Okay, I've got 3 clues for you.
All right.
Friends.
Okay.
Palmetto. It's Palmetto.
Thank you.
And Michael.
I don't remotely have an idea.
This was a really hard one to do clues for, because they're either just dead giveaways, or I had to go a little obscure and be broad. So sorry.
That's okay.
People get them. I'm so impressed when people guess our episodes.
It's so wild to me. Yeah, I'm like totally confused, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this, and this. I would have thrown in this clue,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "Wait, what?"
I
Oh,
know, I
perfect.
know. So, yeah, friends, Palmetto and Michael, and it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be fun. I'm
I'm
excited about it.
excited. Awesome. Well, then
Mhm.
we will see you guys back in 2 weeks. In the meantime, you can check Rebekah out on her weekly podcast, DIE-ALOGUE, which has new episodes each Wednesday.
Yes, and Melissa, you can always hear on Moms and Murder, which is every Tuesday. So that's 2 days of the week. You get us when we're not doing criminality, which is great. And you can follow us here at Criminality Show on all the social media platforms, on the gram, as Melissa loves
Oof.
for us to say, and on YouTube, where we have a lot of fun showing our backgrounds and our props and our visual aids, if you will.
Yes.
So yeah, give us a follow, and we can't wait to see you in 2 weeks.
Have a great 2 weeks.
Bye.